All right. Hello, everybody. So yeah, we have a good audience of people. I see there's a good 50 something people here and more joining. So yeah, good to see everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed this meeting guidelines webinar. I think we did something different this time. We wanted to show you some of the data that we have access to, right? Like I think we're in a very interesting position to be able to just have access to the tens of millions of meetings that happen and be able to see those trends, and then obviously come to you with some ideas and solutions on how you can take those trends and do something about them. So, and this is a very different thing that we're doing for Fellow. And I'll say hi to a few people who are joining. James, good to see you as always. Thanks for dropping in. But the thing that I wanted to say is this is a special moment for Fellow because what we're trying to do here is that historically what we focus on is building really, really great product for end users, which we still do, right? Like that's still a focus for Fellow. But one of the things that's becoming harder is for people who really care about meetings, for those managers, for those leaders within their organizations that just care about being able to build a great meeting culture. It's kind of hard to do this on a team by team basis, right? It just requires a lot of effort. You have to convince other people to come join your mission, your cause, and in order to slowly distribute Fellow across the organization. What we're hoping to do with meeting guidelines and some of the work that we're building here is to give you the opportunity to be able to address this from the top level of the organization, right? If you're CEO, you're a COO, or someone who is leading operations within your company, and you want to like holistically change the meeting culture, that's where tools like meeting guidelines actually come in. And hopefully you've seen a glimpse of what that stuff looks like, and hopefully you'll get a chance to try it. So we do have a bunch of questions, so let me just go in and answer some of the questions. There was a quick question that someone asked, which was, the demo and everything that you all showed was in Google, and does this all work for Microsoft? And so the answer is yes. It does also work for the Microsoft Suite. We're just about to release a plugin that allows you to also implement this if you're using Office 365, or it can work within your Outlook, your desktop Outlook app. And so those are two things that we're working on, and they're being released very shortly, and happy to work with anyone who wants to implement those. So some of the other questions, and obviously feel free to message in right here in the chat, and I'll answer those. Question from Kristen: are these features? How can we use them? So they are ready. So if you reach out to on Intercom, message someone within Fellow, we can definitely chat with you about enabling them. Again, this is a different type of feature because the idea is like this is something that you enable for everyone within your organization. And so it just requires a little bit more hand holding. So make sure to reach out to us, and we can walk you through it. So one of the other questions, so Ginger, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So you say, how do you protect your time when you are a people leader? And I'm in 6 plus hours of meetings almost every single day. And so I think, at a very basic level, what I would say that all of us need to do a meeting audit on ourselves, right? And so if you reach out to us, we can also do a meeting audit for the whole organization. But on a very basic level, it's really important that at least once a quarter you do a meeting audit, for yourself. And so when you do a meeting audit for yourself, you can discover a whole bunch of things. You have to really look very critically at every single meeting and start to ask the questions of, does everybody need to be in this meeting? Does this meeting have a purpose? Does it need to be an hour? Can it be half an hour? Does it need to happen every week? Can it happen once every 2 weeks? And really start to critically question each and every one of those things. Question things like, how actively do I participate in that meeting? One of the things that we like to say is that if you're not actively going to participate in a particular meeting, you're not going to actually say anything, then it's better that you watch the recording or read the Fellow summary using our AI feature. Just read the summary afterwards, and that'll really help. But these changes are still very hard, right? The reason that they're very hard is because it requires organizational change. So if you want to operate a certain way, but everybody around you doesn't want to operate that way, it's still going to be hard. And so again, step number one, get the meeting guidelines ebook, right? It's free. Just email it to everybody within, with all the leaders within your company. And if that's something that you all are interested, adopt it. Like it's not hard to adopt it. Make it your own. You can make modifications to it. But then after you do that, if you also want that built into your calendar so that behavior is reinforced along the way, then obviously, Fellow can help for that sort of thing. Um, would you consider adding whiteboarding feature in the future? So we're not really looking at whiteboarding, and the reason is that the yeah the reason for that is that I think a lot of tools like Miro do a very excellent job, and so we have integrations with those tools, and so because we have those integrations, I mean we have integrations with so many different tools, and so the idea is when there's something best in class, we just want to focus on meetings, which is our core strength, and we will allow you to embed those other features. So another question from Karine is, can you set guidelines for a specific department? Yes, you can definitely do that. So it requires a little bit more configuration on the back end for us to be able to do that. But certainly this makes all the sense in the world. There's all sorts of complex structures. For example, if you're an individual contributor engineer versus you're an individual contributor product manager, those are two very different roles, right? So to make a recommendation such as, this department should only have X number, like we don't want anyone in that department to have, say, more than 15 hours of meetings, doesn't really apply for an individual contributor, software developer, right? You may want that number to be drastically lower. And so the specification, so this is like definitely an enterprise ready feature. And so this is something we can definitely configure based on the departments that you have. So yeah, and obviously this is all recorded and we'll make that available to you all. From Eric, any thoughts on the balance of sending out recordings versus sending out concise meeting notes? It's hard when cultures unintentionally lean too far to the idea of just go listen to the recording. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff coming. So there's a really awesome Fellow launch event coming very, very soon. So you'll get a notice from that shortly. But what we find is more often than not, it's the opposite problem. I remember talking to a technology leader, multi-thousand person company, and he was saying, we have this meeting. There's 63 attendees in this meeting, and 4 people ever talk. Right? It's only 4 people that talk, and 59 people just listen. And maybe every now and then, one of those 59 people is going to chime in with one sentence. Right? I think we need to change the culture that only the people that are going to participate be the ones that actually attend the meeting, and everything else is sent via summaries, and people can watch the recordings at double speed and get the action items that are relevant for them. And I know this is a different way of thinking, but this is the way that we have to move to, right? You saw the data. The data showed that we have 50% more meetings than we did in 2019, the number of meeting hours spent. So the reason for that, again, is we moved from in the office to a hybrid environment, and everything became a meeting. So it's time to now change the culture, and we can't just operate the way that we have been. I honestly believe that the future of productivity for the world is in jeopardy if we don't do something about it. And so I think if someone is going to participate, they should be part of the meeting. But if they're not going to participate, they definitely should not be. And we're going to build even more tools into the product to kind of encourage that behavior. One of the concerns, Eric, I think, is that when you say I'll send you the recording, is you're not sure if that person is going to watch what you send, right? Like there's this fear that leaders have of will they consume the content? And so some of this stuff is, obviously on a leadership level is like, let's, start from a place of trust. But also we want to build in tools where it's easy to verify that these communication strategies are working. And so stay tuned for a bunch of those things. So yeah, and from Bill, is this a enterprise only thing? So it is currently part of our enterprise plan, and the reason for this is that it's not so much like this goes beyond the your standard type of feature where you just click a button and then things happen. This is really the sort of thing that you have to work with your whole organization holistically, and so part of the things that we do is we help you with the change management aspects, right? We're going to keep building software that's going to keep getting better and better, but there's going to be no software in the world where you click a button and everybody's culture changes overnight. So this particular feature comes with a bunch of things in the back end, analytics to make sure that these things are going in the right direction, and meeting audit process that tells you. So for example, in your organization, 92% of your meetings don't have agendas before the meeting, right? To really like pinpoint the problem areas, show you what those are, and then so that you can convince company leadership to say, here are the problem, like this is the reality on the ground with meetings. 20% of our payroll is spent doing this one activity, and 92% of those meetings don't have agendas, as an example. So it's like identifying the issues, doing that audit, and then coming up with the meeting guidelines that you want to adopt, and then obviously enabling the feature. But I think like the technology part on its own is not going to be successful, and that's why it's just part of a core change management strategy, and why it's included in our enterprise offering. But yeah, definitely happy to chat about any of this stuff. Message us on Intercom right within the product, and we can definitely talk more. So we are getting close to time, but let me just see any other interesting um, questions that I haven't answered yet. Any plans to ever allow multiple emails tied to Fellow, such as personal and professional email address? So you can definitely tie multiple email addresses to Fellow. If you have multiple domains, definitely a thing that you can do. So if you message us and say, hey, we own these two domains, can definitely merge those so that they exist on the same instance. And one thing that you may know is that you can invite external parties. So if you have different email addresses, you can definitely invite different email addresses, even if they're external to your organization, to collaborate within any meeting. So, and then one final question I will answer is, how is Fellow supporting async communication before and after meetings? Is it limited to agendas and action items? I feel like async culture is crucial for these practices to work. Yeah, async is, obviously part of the Fellow strategy and implementing Fellow is to make sure that a lot of meetings are asynchronous. So we turn a lot of synchronous activities into asynchronous ones. And so there's a lot of automations. I won't be able to go through them today, but we have a lot of automation. So inside of Fellow at the top right, there's a lightning bolt icon. And if you click on that, there's a whole bunch of meeting automations that you can enable to make sure that people are doing things before the meeting and after the meeting. And along with all of the AI features that keep getting better, and stay tuned for more announcements on that. I think we do a pretty holistic job on that overall. So I think that brings us to the end. Really enjoyed chatting with everybody here. And again, hopefully you see the momentum, like we continue to build awesome things here at Fellow. And I'm very excited about our next particular launch. So stay tuned for that. It's a major product launch. And I'm going to drop a hint here, which is one of the most core parts of the product, a part of the product that you've been using since the very early days of Fellow, we're giving a drastic makeover to, and it's going to be a game changer. It's actually going to change the way that you use Fellow. I'm so excited to tell you more about it, but you'll have to stay tuned for the next launch event. And with that said, thank you all for attending, and I will see you all next time.